Hello, everyone. I'm Megan Naftali with the Long Island Advocate here today with Jacob Kraniak, creator of Long Island EVs. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for speaking with me today.
Of course. So, what is the mission of Long Island EVs?
So my goal with the platform is simply to help educate drivers in my neighborhood about the benefits of electrification, keep them informed about new charging installations, and just in general help promote EV adoption in my neighborhood.
When did you create it?
Started about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago at this point. So it's fairly new, but it's accelerating at a exponential rate with the adoption.
And how many electric vehicles are there on Long Island?
On Long Island, I didn't have that information ready for me, but I will tell you there are over 100,000 in New York State, and at least a third of them are from Long Island. So Long Island is the #1 region for adoption in the state.
And do you know how many charging stations there are on Long Island?
Yeah, so based on the most recent data from NYSERDA and Atlas Policy, there are 442 level 2 charging ports, which allow about 25 miles per hour of charging, and 241 DC fast charging ports, which allow a full charge in under an hour, and with some of the faster ones charging in 10 to 20 minutes.
And so, can you tell me a little bit about the bipartisan infrastructure bill that was passed? Like, how will that affect the amount of charging stations on Long Island?
Okay, so my opinion about the infrastructure bill is not necessarily going to be shared with my peers in the space. But what I will say about it is I don't believe that government incentives are an effective long-term solution for the transition to sustainable energy. And I should be clear, when I say subsidies, I'm not just talking about EVs and electric, I'm also talking about gas and oil companies getting subsidies. A recent report from the International Monetary Fund found that globally there were $5.9 trillion, trillion with a T, in government subsidies to fossil fuel companies. And the US was one of the 5 countries that made up 2/3 of that number. The others being China, Russia, India, and Japan. So while incentives for accelerating the deployment of infrastructure and rebates for vehicles might be a helpful solution in the short term, maybe 5 to 10 years, a bigger benefit to the overall economy would be to eliminate and drastically reduce government subsidies for fossil fuels, which would naturally encourage more to switch to electric as it becomes much more economically viable.
What has your experience been like owning an electric vehicle?
All right, so I purchased my 2018 Honda Clarity plug-in hybrid in June 2019. It was a dealer courtesy car with under 5,000 miles on the odometer. It gets 45 miles of range in EV mode and switches to a small gas engine for another 250 miles of range. I knew I needed something more efficient and reliable, as I had recently gotten a job about 35 miles from my house. And the monthly cost for the fuel for my previous car, which was a Nissan Xterra, big, bulky SUV, 15 miles per gallon, was around 400 to 500 a month just in gas for that commute. So after researching, I found that I could spend less per month on a car payment plus fuel costs than I was spending just on solely for fuel on the Nissan. So with my long commutes from Port Jefferson to Jericho, it was a no-brainer. Now, I did buy this vehicle knowing that I had no way to charge it at home. My unique situation is that I live in a condo complex that has no assigned parking and no current way for me to install a charger. Now, I am part of the condo board, so I'm kind of pushing for charging, but there's no clear indication if that's going to happen. I still wanted to switch to an EV experience and get familiar with living with an EV while not having to worry about charging at home. I do charge periodically when visiting family using just their 110 outlets, and charge for free at Farmingdale State College, where I'm currently attending for a bachelor's degree. They have a solar powered carport with 20 level 2 chargers for students. When my wife and I are eventually able to find a home with a garage, which is, as we know, quite difficult in the current market, I will be able to charge the car every day at home, and my next car will be fully electric. I'm committed to never paying for gas after this car.
And so what are some of the other benefits of owning an electric vehicle?
Some of the other benefits, I mean, as we all know, they're very quiet. It's you don't realize how much stress you get driving on the road just from the vibration, the noise, and all the stuff you have to pay attention to. It's a very calming experience once you do it. My commutes, even in my car, when it switches to the gas engine, it's very quiet. And if you have autopilot, like a level 2, what they call adaptive cruise control, lane keeping assist. My car has that, so I can go on the HOV lane of the LIE and just kind of stay right there inside the lanes. And it kind of does the work for me, which takes a lot of the stress out of long commutes.
Are there reduced maintenance costs with electric vehicles?
Yes, as a matter of fact, if you have a fully electric vehicle, there are almost no maintenance costs. The only thing you will have to pay for is tires, because you're still going to use your tires. Maybe slightly more often because there's more road wear from the extra weight, but it's not that much. And then even your brakes, you'll have to change them once, but because the EVs have regenerative braking, they use the motors to slow down the car. You almost never use your brakes. So those last for a long time. And then, as we all know, there's no engine, no transmission, transfer case. There's about 1/10 of the amount of moving parts, if not less, than in a gas engine. So less things to break.
And in your experience, have there been any like negatives to owning one?
Well, like I said, me personally, I own a plug-in hybrid, so I don't have exactly the same experience as someone with a fully electric car. I mean, it would be nice for there to be more charging stations, and there are growing in numbers every year. But most people, most not including me, but most people who own a home charge at home anyway. So that ends up not being as much of a concern as people might think. So I haven't personally seen many negatives. I've been very happy with the car.
And what would you say to people who are, I guess, nervous to purchase one because they believe it's too expensive?
Just go for a test drive, to one of the local events. I'm also a member of the Drive Electric Long Island Coalition, which is a nonprofit promoting EVs on Long Island. And we have regular events at libraries where EV owners will come and present their cars and tell people about them. And just ask, it's not as much as you'd think. The average sale price of a new car in the United States overall was about $45,000 last year. And that's round about the cost of a new EV. Not discounting dealer markups, which I don't agree with, but the MSRP is 40 to 45,000 for a new EV before incentives. So it can be even less than that. And of course, you're saving, so much in gas. You're not going to be spending near as much. You'll spend about 1/3 at least in electric costs than you were paying for the equivalent in gas.
And is there anything that I haven't asked you that you think would be important for people to know?
No, I think you covered a lot of the bases. I know one thing that is often brought up is the sourcing of electricity. An argument I'll often hear is, well, the energy comes from a gas or coal plant, so it's just about as bad as a gas car. But people fail to take in a lot of things into consideration. First being, even if they are powered by a gas power plant, let's get rid of coal out of the picture, because coal is such a small percentage of power in the United States today. But natural gas does cover a lot of it. Even when it is powered by those plants are way more efficient in generating electricity and getting it to your car in an electric than manufacturing the gasoline, the oil, refining it, putting it in a truck, transporting it in that truck, loading it into a gas pump, then using electricity to power the gas pumps at the station, and then your car burning it in heat and wasteful energy. So the gas power plants are still more efficient than an electric car. And when you have those plants outside of the cities, your air and the air quality in your neighborhood gets cleaner because you're not breathing in those toxic fumes. So there are, you know, indirect benefits that people don't think about. And that even that situation is assuming they're all gas, which they're not. I just read a report that 20% of total energy output in the United States last month was from wind and solar. And in New York, it's even better. There's, I think, 40% of our energy comes from hydroelectric and nuclear.
So if you could go back and get a different car, would you?
The only thing I think I would do differently, I mean, there wasn't as many options. The infrastructure was not there yet. I might get a fully electric car now, knowing how quickly the stations were going to be built out, because not shortly after that, a supercharger was built out in Lake Grove, near where I live, and I could have gotten a Tesla Model 3 back when they were cheap, not before the prices went up. And I could have theoretically charged my car there, like maybe twice, 2-3 times, once every 2 or 3 weeks, just to supercharge for like 20 minutes, hang out, and then get 300 miles for the rest of the time. So that's the only thing I think I would change.
All right, well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today.
All right, thanks for speaking to me today. I appreciate it. All right, have a good one.